Hey everybody, it's Mr. G. Welcome to another Create Art video. We are going to be making a new project today, and for this project you're going to need a pencil, a piece of paper, and then some kind of coloring supplies. You could be using crayons, markers, colored pencils, maybe you have some paints at home you can use. You can use whatever you like, and you can be as colorful as you want with this project. But we're going to be dealing with shapes. We're going to be making some playful shapes with this project. So we're going to be dealing with geometric shapes, organic shapes, overlapping shapes, shapes that have windows, and making a really playful composition just by using shapes. So gather up your supplies and get ready to create. So the first thing we're going to talk about are different kinds of shapes you can use for your project. So if you want to practice any of these using your paper and pencil, you can do that. I'm going to show you some different examples on my dry erase board. So shapes are going to be the main focus, and drawing good shapes are going to really help your project relate to that concept of that really great element of art that is often used. Now, usually you can use shapes to make pictures, but we're going to keep them just as basic shapes, but the way that we arrange them in our composition is what's going to make it very playful. So the first thing we want to talk about are the geometric shapes. Geometric shapes, the shapes you probably normally think of, such as a square, which has 1, 2, 3, 4 equal sides, a triangle, which has 3 sides. Keep in mind that triangles might have more different angles to them. They don't always have to look like that first one I drew, but as long as they have 3 sides like that, you'll have a triangle. You might also have a circle, a rectangle, which also has 4 sides like a square, but 2 sides are short that are parallel or across from each other, and 2 sides are longer. So you have 2 short sides, 2 long sides. You might also use an oval, which is like taking a circle and stretching it out, making it longer like a rectangle is in relation to a square. And you could do some other shapes. Maybe some of you know how to draw diamonds or hearts or stars. Any kind of these shapes I'm going to consider geometric. The other fun shape to use for this project are organic shapes, or sometimes we just call these blob shapes. So a blob shape is making a curvy line. So I'm going to start my marker right here. I'm just going to make a curvy line. I'm just going to wiggle it however I want. Now keep in mind that if I just leave it like this, it's still a line. But what I want to do is I want to close up this line where I started it. And when I do that, it turns it into a shape. Kind of looks like a paint splatter or a blob, maybe spilt milk. Just that kind of shape is what we call an organic shape or a blob shape. And what's fun about organic shapes is you can really make them different every time you make them, just how much you're curving your line, okay, and how big or small you're making it. So those are going to be considered organic or blob shapes. The final fun thing you can do on this project is add holes to your shapes. So let's say, for example, I have a square and I put a smaller square inside of it. Now what I'm considering is that that's actually a hole that I've cut out through my square. So if I colored this square in, for example, I would not color in that hole. That way it looks like I can see through it, almost like a little window. So I might refer to those as windows or holes. And they can be the same shape that you drew on the outside, like I did there with the square inside of a square. Maybe you could do a circle. So this one was kind of smaller. This circle I'm also going to make kind of bigger inside of it, but then when I color that circle in, again, I'm leaving that middle one white, so it looks like a hole. Or maybe you have an organic blob shape. Maybe I do a smaller one in there, and again, that's the hole. And so what can be fun about having a window is if you're drawing shapes and overlapping them, which I'm about to go over, it's like you can see through them. So let's say I'm drawing a triangle, and then I'm skipping over parts of that, so it looks like I can actually see that parts of that triangle through the window of that hole that's cut out. Maybe there's a rectangle going through here. It's not exactly right. I want to get your angles right of your line. I'm going to change that angle a little bit. There we go. And so having that, looks like I can see part of that rectangle through there. So that's what can be fun about having windows. on your project. So let's get into that overlapping concept. This is the last thing that can really add some depth to your project, even though we're just using simple shapes to build our composition. So I'm just going to draw a few shapes out: circle, triangle, and a square. Okay, different sizes, spread out. But now I want to do some different shapes overlapping around them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the stop and hop technique. So let's say I'm going to draw a rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to do it behind this circle here. So I'm going to start drawing my rectangle like I normally would with a line, but I'm going to stop, I'm going to hop and continuing that same path, but just hopping over it. Then I'm going to do the short side of the rectangle, bring it all the way down to match that side, and then just close it up. So now it looks like that rectangle is behind that circle. Let's say I want to have a circle behind this triangle. So I'm going to make my circle here, but I'm going to stop and hop around and then connect it back to where I started. So now it looks like it's overlapping and behind it. And again, if I have a window, let's say in one of my shapes like that, let's say I'm doing an organic blobby shape, stop, hop, and I'm going to go inside my window too, so I can see that going through, and then continue it, hop again, and do that. So it looks like that is through there, but I can also see that part of the edge of that blob shape through that window. So that's another fun component you can add to your final composition as we move on to the paper. So you got geometric shapes, organic or blob shapes. You can have windows or holes on your shapes if you want, and you can also overlap your shapes to give a sense of depth to your art. Onto my paper, I'm going to use a pencil to start, and then I'm going to be using markers to color it in. But again, you can use crayons or colored pencils. You could even paint this if you wanted to. Anything you have available at home, you can use to color it in. I'm going to be using markers for my example though. So I'm going to have my paper horizontal, but I could have it turned vertically up and down. It doesn't matter for this project, but what you want to do is fill this space up. You do want to have some white space. That will be kind of the background area of your paper, and you don't want to have everything, every little nook and cranny filled on your paper. You do want to have some white space showing, but if you have some space left, it's going to help your shape stand out a little bit more. So first I'm going to kind of start up here. I'm just going to kind of move across and hop around all over, drawing different geometric shapes to start. So I'm going to do a circle, a rectangle. As you draw your shapes, try to do them at different angles, so they're not all kind of up and down or left and right. Some might be more diagonal or going in different directions. And make them, the size is different too. So I'm going to make kind of a big triangle here, square, small oval, another rectangle that's a little smaller than the first one I did. Add a heart over here. Diamond. So already I'm kind of filling the space of my paper. I'm going all over. I'm not just sticking in one spot here. I'm going to add in some organic shapes now. Again, I'm still not doing any overlapping where I'm doing the stop and hop. I'm just kind of filling in some of the big parts of my paper. You can also have shapes that go off your edge of your paper like that. So let's say I have a triangle over here, but I'm close to the edge. So I might not be able to see all three sides, but just having those two parts right there kind of suggests that there's a triangle there. Maybe there's kind of a half a circle down here, suggesting that there's a circle or maybe even an oval down there. But again, just right now I'm just kind of filling in my space of my paper with different shapes. Okay, so I've got some organic blob shapes now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some windows to some of these shapes. So I'm going to do a square window on this triangle. I'm going to do a circular window on here. Do a big rectangular window inside of this one. An organic shape window on here. Do a diamond window on this square. And you could even have, do the opposite. So this could actually be the window that I've already drawn. So now I'm going to kind of go around it with a curvy line, almost like I'm drawing like flower petals. Like that. So now it's kind of an oval window inside of that shape. Maybe I've got little points, like a sun, going around this heart here. So the heart is actually becoming the window. So It doesn't always have to be the shape and then the window. You can change your first shape and then do a shape around it to do it that opposite way too. And you can just decide how many windows you want to have. I'm just going to add a few more just regular shapes in here. And I'm going to do some overlapping. So now I'm going to add in a square kind of behind this triangle. Even though there's a window there, it doesn't mean I need to draw through it. So again, I'm going to draw the line, I'm going to stop, hop over it, continue, and then finish up my shape the normal way I would. I'm going to do an oval behind this rectangle, so I'm going to start here kind of with that rainbow curve. I'm going to stop and hop. I'm going to draw inside the window, stop and hop, continue around, loop it back around, stop, hop, draw through the window, stop, and then I've already got that there. So now that oval is behind that rectangle. I'm going to do a circle behind this. It's going to end up looking a little more oval than a circle, and that's okay. Have a rectangle kind of coming through this diamond, but also kind of going off the edge of the paper down here. A few more circles up here. Do a triangle down here. Draw the point inside of that window. And then again, I'm stopping and hopping whenever I'm doing that. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. You can fill in however many shapes you want, but try to have a good balance. You don't want a big group of shapes here and then have this all empty over here. So try to space them out evenly. And if you notice any kind of areas that you want to fill in more, like right here, there's kind of a lot of blank spots up here. So I'm going to have kind of a V shape, suggesting that there's a triangle there. Maybe another heart shape down here. And I have another circle kind of come in around behind that blob shape there. So that's good for my drawing component. Now what I can get into is adding the color to it. Before I do that, I want to make the suggestions that maybe instead of just coloring everything solid, is making patterns. So for example, maybe on some of these shapes like this square that's behind this triangle, I'm going to draw some diagonal lines, again stopping and hopping over the triangle to make a stripe pattern in there. Maybe some polka dots in this blob shape here. And I'm going to do some zigzag stripes inside of this triangle that's going off of there. And I'll do a curvy line pattern in this one, hopping over that window like that. So you can add some patterns or some more design features. Maybe you're going to draw little pictures inside, things like that. Be creative, have fun with the drawing, but now we're going to get into the color. So as you can see, I've already started to color my shapes, and what I'm using again is markers. And so I'm using all the colors of the color wheel. Red, blue, and yellow are the primary colors. The secondary colors, green, orange, and purple. I'm also adding pink and gray, and then I'm going to use black for outlining to give it more of a cartoony animated style. You can use as many different colors as you want if you want your project to be really colorful, or maybe you're going to choose just a select amount of colors, like maybe you're only going to use the secondary colors and pink as well, to maybe have more of a color scheme to your project. But what I recommend you do as you're adding color to your project, as you can see here with the colors I've already added, is try to think about how you're going to balance your colors out. So if I have pink here, I'm also putting pink over here and up here, because it helps my eye move around. When I notice a pink, then my eye wants to kind of notice other pinks. When I notice a green up here, I put other greens kind of spaced out around my project too, to help my eye kind of move around and balance out my overall artwork. So I haven't used any blue yet, so I'm going to start to add some blue here with these remaining shapes along with some other colors here. So I'm going to add blue to this blob. When I color in my shapes with marker, I like to outline them first to give it a cleaner edge and then fill it in completely, taking my time, especially for smaller shapes, trying to stay inside the lines as best as I can. I'm also going to use blue over here for this diamond, so I'm going to outline it first and then fill it in. And I'm going to use blue as part of this pattern of square, and my square up here, so I'm going to do this first section, go over the curvy line, fill that in blue. I'll skip that one and do that a different color. And then I need to hop around my diamond as well. That is a hole or a window on this shape, so I'm not going to color in that. I'm going to leave it white, like I'm seeing the white background through the paper. I'll switch over to green for the middle part here. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to emphasize the pattern by coloring it in different colors. Instead of just coloring over the whole square and the curvy lines with just all blue, then it would just kind of look like a blue square. But by coloring blue, then green, then blue again, then I've emphasized the pattern I've drawn through color as well. And then I'm going to use some pink up here in these polka dots, which I haven't colored yet. Those are not windows. These are more of a pattern. And finally, I'm going to use orange on this final blob here. So I'm going to outline around that. Outline the window blob. And then fill in the rest. Now, if you're using crayons, you know, you can achieve different values with crayons, especially colored pencils too, if you're using colored pencils. So instead of coloring everything really dark and bold and bright like the markers do, you can press harder or softer with colored pencils or crayons, and you can get some different values and some more kind of just more sense of realism to the shapes. Like maybe you're going to color in a side like really dark by pressing harder with it and then pressing softer and elsewhere, and it can kind of give it more of a realistic look to them too if you're using more values on there instead of using markers where it's just going to be kind of all bold and bright. That's kind of what I was going for with my version here. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a black marker and I'm going to outline all of my shapes. This is going to give them more of a kind of cartoony animated look, make it look a little more playful to go along with the playful shape concept. So if you have a window on your shape like that triangle, outline that as well. If you have a pattern, I would go over the pattern too with the black so that it emphasizes like that. So you're just going to kind of go around outlining the edges of your shapes. And if you went outside the lines a little bit, outlining can help clean up those edges a little bit like I did here on this orange blob. So you're just going to kind of go through and outline all of those. So then as I finish up this last square, I'm going to outline the square, outline the curvy line pattern I did, hopping over, stopping, hopping over the diamond window, and then outlining the diamond window as well. And so then what I'm left with is this playful composition of different shapes that are moving around my paper. Some are going off the paper, some are overlapping others, some have windows where you can see shapes through it. Maybe I'm just going to add some polka dots in here to fill in some more of this negative space with my black, give it more of that animated, cartoony feel. And I could do these polka dots anywhere. I'm not going crazy, just dotting all over and ruining my composition that I've already taken the time to create, but I'm just going to be very intentional on where I do my dots and making sure that I'm just filling that in like so, and I'm left with this composition that's created out of different geometric shapes, organic shapes, overlapping shapes, and also having that sense of depth with overlapping shapes along with the windows that I can see through shapes as well. Thanks again for joining me today, everybody. I hope you had fun making your Playful Shapes project. Remember, if you are one of my students, you can take a picture of your design and email it to me, and maybe I'll feature it in a future Hooray Art video. You can share this video with others, subscribe to my channel so you're up to date on future projects, or leave a comment or question for me down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Remember, until next time, stay positive, always inspire, show creativity, and always be the best version of yourself. Have a great day.